as some of you may know me, but I'm Vinnie. Now, seeing how I've decided to do this month of love and talk about some of my favorite game series, I really had to think about all the great, awesome games I've played throughout my life. And there have been so many great, amazing franchises from my childhood, when I was a teenager. But there's one franchise that is relatively new, and yet I still absolutely love it with a passion. That franchise, of course, being Assassin's Creed. Video games, for the most part, are very simplistic in many regards. They often are just soldiers, or fantasy, or space, or adventure games. These very simple, traditional stuff. Assassin's Creed is a game where it actually has an immense respect for history, which I also have as well. Whereas most people find history boring, I absolutely revel in it. Especially being someone who lives in Canada, our history is not really that epic or full of action and war and fighting. It's a lot of talking and discussion. And I still absolutely love learning every little bit, the way the power was transferred, how the colonies expanded throughout the ages, the different ways of civilization developed. I just find it all fascinating. And that's what I loved about the Assassin's Creed series right from the get-go, was they took you to places you had never ever seen before in a video game. Places like the Crusade, the Renaissance, early America, revolutionary France, Victorian London. These settings that are very kind of niche and almost never seen before in gaming. And they treated them with absolute respect and care of the time period. Whereas most video games that use a time period, you'll see ninjas using samurai swords, or ninjas doing backflips and shooting guns and throwing all these crazy stuff that wasn't really accurate, but is fun because it's part of the trope. Assassin's Creed absolutely is make sure they get every tiny detail, to the clothing, to the weapons, to when a specific person died. They absolutely do their research, and I would never say, don't read a history book, play Assassin's Creed. But if you want a good starting off point to learn about what happened with these characters, it's an absolute great resource because it has so many different pictures and letters and reference notes that you can actually learn a fair bit about what happened in these different periods. I love the fact that Assassin's Creed can take us to these all unique, interesting, different places, and not only entertain us, but teach us about how it was to live in those time periods. Not to absolutely contradict myself, something I also love is the fact that it has a silly but still somewhat engaging story. Now, I am not one for the whole, alien conspiracy thing. But that being said, it is an interesting thought process, and Assassin's Creed definitely runs with it through the fullest. Discusses this whole notion of humans being created by aliens, and pre-civilization, and society being destroyed and rebuilt, and something you would think would just be assassins killing each other and fighting with the Templars. There's a lot of lore to dig through in terms of just like the various times they've met each other and encountered each other and all the different ways they've tried to gain the upper hand. Yes, it is about aliens and memories and other science fiction stuff, but it is still really engaging, and it treats it 100% serious. It never makes fun or light of it. It absolutely commits to this story. And it's a story that, while many people may hate the Desmond part, I thought the Desmond storyline was very engaging because you see this man go from a layabout bartender, not really doing much with his life, to becoming a highly skilled trained assassin. Yes, it's a very slow process, but you still saw the growth of this character, which was something very engaging. Which, again, you would think it would just be assassins killing each other, murdering. There is a very deep story to connect all these games together. But of course, amazing attention to detail and to history and an engaging story will only go so far. And something I love about the Assassin's Creed series is it basically set the standard for what we now call the Ubisoft formula, or the Ubisoft gameplay hook, in which they give you thousands upon thousands of side quests and little collectibles and things to collect and do and engage with. GTA may have been the first true open world game, but to a certain extent, often the city would feel very empty. You couldn't go into a lot of the buildings. There weren't a lot of things to do. There's just one or two side missions. The Assassin's Creed hook, which has been passed on to games like Far Cry and Watch Dogs, is very simple in that they give you a whole bunch to do, so no matter what, you always feel like you're making progress. Even if it's something simple as taking down a base, or finding a hidden Templar, or whatever, lighting a tower, lighting the beacon, climbing a tower, all that other fun stuff. There's always something for you to do in the game. You never run out of things to do. Even if you don't want to do the Thieves mission, you can go do the Mercenaries, you can join the Fight Club, you can do the races, you can collect the feathers, you can do all these other great stuff. You can expand your base, you can find codec pages. There's so many things to do. And I know some people may say that's a bit tedious, you're just collecting things for the sake of collecting. But personally, as a person who, as I've gotten older, has less and less time, I very much appreciate the fact that I can go play 45 minutes and still make a sizable chunk in the game. Sure, I might have only unlocked 1 or 2 armor pieces, but I definitely feel like I've been making progress, as opposed to certain RPGs or other games where you'll play for 45 minutes and you feel like you really haven't done anything. Something else I also love about the gameplay is the combat is actually really good. Now, my personal opinion, it's been a bit simplified in more recent games, but it's still a great, awesome, standout part of the game, because you can make the whole argument of who created this whole button reaction combat first, and who was Batman, or Assassin's Creed, or all these other stuff. But something I liked about the earlier Assassin's Creed game especially, was the fact that you couldn't just button mash. You had to block and parry and kick, and you had to, there was real strategy in terms of how you took down an enemy and the different ways. Yet you couldn't just like attack a big enemy, you had to like counter, wait for the right attack, wait for the right position. It was very Zelda in that term. There's also the fact that the game offered you a lot of different options in terms of how you wanted to get things done. Even despite the fact that as the game has gone more and more modern, it has very much stayed away from guns, and that's an absolute blessing, because you have so many different things like the smoke bombs, the crossbow, the throwing knives, the different swords, the axes, the spears. It really gave you different tools to play however you want. Now, it's not a true stealth game, it's more of an action game, really. And that's very much true in terms of the way you conduct stealth-like missions, where it's supposed to sneak around and hug into corners and all that. You basically stand on rooftops. But I very much appreciate the fact that you have to do stuff like eavesdrop on conversations. You have to make sure you stay in the shadows so nobody sees you. I especially like it, again, in earlier games like Assassin's Creed 1, where in that game, the whole structure of the game was finding intel, finding your entry point, finding out the guard positions, all that different stuff, so that when you did do the big final mission, it was actually, felt like all those little missions had been leading up to something, as opposed to kind of just doing random missions until you get to the big boss fight. So I know it may seem like very simple stuff. Yes, it's got a great, absolute, awesome attention to detail in terms of history and facts and all those little minute stuff. And it's got a pretty engaging story, and great memorable characters, and engaging gameplay that always keeps you coming back with 1 or 2 little things to keep you going. Yes, I know some may be disappointed by the Assassin's Creed series because the climbing is a bit clunky, and the story is admittedly still very weird. But like I said, just the attention to detail and the fact that it does history better than so many other games. You have Call of Duty games that take place in Vietnam or World War II, but really that's just a setting. It is not part of the story. The setting and the time period is as much as part of the story as the characters, or the acts, or all the other things that has made the Assassin's Creed series great. Yes, Assassin's Creed has had many ups and downs, but for a series that's still 10 years old, to do so many great, amazing things, to get its own movie, to have so many spin-offs and other side games that are all great and awesome in their own way, goes to show that the Assassin's Creed series probably won't be going anywhere for a long time.
Oh, yeah! Who's your daddy?
Avanti. Ezio. Prego. Can I offer you something? Biscotti. Un caffè.
What's cafe?
An interesting concoction brought to me by a Turk merchant. Here, have a taste.
A little bitter if you ask me. Just seems lacking somehow. I don't know, have you considered adding sugar maybe? Or latte?
I suppose it's something of an acquired taste.